If you're a first-time listener of ADHDAF, this is a mini episode, the final instalment of a mid-series mini-series created for ADHD Awareness Month 2024. So this year's theme is Awareness is Key. And I asked members of the ADHDAF online peer support community to share the key piece of awareness that they feel is essential to raise. So having always said that ADHD services need to be patient-led, nothing about us without us, I've practiced what I preach for now 9 mini episodes in amplifying the voices of those that have gone unheard for far too long. So what you're about to hear are segments from crucial conversations held over Zoom. This isn't studio sound quality. I mean, none of this is. It isn't a studio podcast, but these in particular are informal conversations held over Zoom with the real stars of ADHDAF podcast, the people who listen to and support the ongoing production of this podcast, those who have received validation from the conversations held over 2 years on this platform, the peers supporting each other in the absence of adequate medical support. Please do have a read of the description to avoid hearing topics that you might find triggering before listening on, where you will also find a link to resources for free and immediate support. So if you are struggling, you are not alone. Please do reach out. Tomorrow is ADHDAF Day, and I have one more bonus for you, shared in celebration of our very special day, but I will come back to that and share more information about how you can get involved in the 3rd annual ADHDAF Day to help raise ADHD awareness and to get your key piece of awareness raised this ADHD Awareness Month. But now I will leave you with the words of 3 Leopard Print Army legends, Micky, Kirsty and Sahra.
Hi, I'm Micky. I'm 42. I live in or near Glasgow in Scotland. I'm currently undiagnosed, but over the last 2 to 3 years, I've started to have the awareness and the realisation that I do in fact have ADHD. And what I would like the world to know about ADHD is that with the increased awareness and in part understanding about ADHD, particularly that of late diagnosed women and AFAB people, society is speaking about it, which is great. However, we all know about the major issues with diagnosis, availability of help such as CBT or talking therapies, and the medication shortage crisis. Hopefully, society is understanding of these massive implications on those living with ADHD, but I'm not sure that they do. ADHD isn't just something to label ourselves with. It's not just the thing that we can attribute our time blindness or executive functioning difficulties to or blame for these things. For many of us, it's a daily struggle, one that we'll have to, and we already have lived with our whole lives, even if we didn't know it. The comorbidities that many of us have can be debilitating. Depression, anxiety, low or no self-worth, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, rejection-sensitive dysphoria, overwhelm. I could go on and on. For many people with ADHD, these things are still very present after diagnosis. I would argue that for those who have realised that they have ADHD but are still awaiting assessment, these comorbidities become more apparent. That's been my experience anyway. This could be for a multitude of reasons that I'm not going to go into because it could be different for everyone. What I would like people to realise is that whether we are diagnosed or not, the things we struggle with are still very much there and affect us every single day. It's not just knowing that we have ADHD, but it's trying to understand the parts of it that make our lives, our work difficult. And it's about working with us to get the best out of ourselves and reach our potential. Give us that breathing space when we become overwhelmed. And it's about allowing us to do the things that make us valuable members of the workforce or family or society in general, even if what we need to do to get there looks different than it does for everyone else. I did see something on Instagram, which I thought was really good. And it says, ADHD is not a learned behaviour. ADHD is not a discipline problem. ADHD is not a spoiled child. ADHD is not a temper tantrum. ADHD is not a choice. ADHD is not the easy way out. ADHD is a medical condition. ADHD is a chemical imbalance. ADHD is a big deal. ADHD is a battle for self-confidence. ADHD is a fight to maintain focus. ADHD is a war between brain and body. ADHD is real. And that's what I'd like to say.
My name is Kirsty. I am a secondary school teacher and I was diagnosed on the NHS in May 2023 after I got a private diagnosis in 2022 in the December. I did think that I would feel validated getting a private diagnosis, but I realised that, I needed a bit more help and support after that. So I was lucky to get onto the NHS system. And after numerous appointments and quite a trauma, eventually got that diagnosis. Fun times. That was, an interesting experience. Yeah, everybody is neurodiverse. Nobody thinks the same. There is no such thing as one way to think about things. So absolutely everybody is on that spectrum, and that spectrum certainly isn't linear either. I struggle sometimes to think of neurotypical, because that is, I don't even know, like if I was in a room who I would point at and say, oh, you're neurotypical, it's a very difficult concept. I feel like neuro average might be slightly easier to think about it in terms of, there are people that may well think in that midstream area that maybe aren't so black and white, and they can see some more grey. Just everybody is different, which is awesome. But trying to explain to somebody that somebody else thinks differently to them can be really challenging. I think we all accept that we all have different tastes. We can all see colours maybe a little bit differently. We all like different music. We're absolutely happy to accept that. But the fact that somebody might not see time the same way as you, or that they might not be able to start a project in the same way that you do, it becomes very difficult because we've all been taught it in the same way. That's the difficulty of getting other people to see what's happening inside your brain, often when you don't understand it yourself. So I spoke to some of my pupils about neurodiversity, and one of them said, I just wish people didn't think I was just bad. And apart from breaking my heart, I wanted to kind of delve into that a bit more and just see what she meant by that. And she said, if I'm talking or I'm not listening and I'm being disruptive or I'm jumping around and stuff like that, it's not because I'm bad and I'm choosing not to listen to you, not even trying to do the opposite to what you tell me, etc. It's just because I've forgotten what you've asked me to. Something's distracted me. I am not a bad person who is trying to on purpose sabotage your lessons, or a bad person that doesn't want an education. I want all of these things. I just can sometimes make the wrong choices, and I just need help and support to get that right. And I suppose in some ways, we often make a lot of decisions, especially for kids who are younger. We learn coping strategies, but we're not very good at teaching what these coping strategies are. So if you ask, again, a pupil, what's a good way to revise? Most of them will just be, I'll read a book. And it goes in one ear and out the other. But have you ever actually taught them a lot of different revision techniques and showed them how to, time themselves, how to break it down into smaller chunks? And that's actually what we kind of have to do with coping strategies, is actually teach them, everybody, these smaller ways to cope with it. We talk about resilience and, if something goes wrong, this is how we might be able to cope with it. But being able to cope with the idea that you're different and not having to mask it and come up with these maladaptive approaches. We're very good at maladaptive coping strategies. Actually recognizing what the alternatives are. We kind of don't do that. And actually, as most adults, whether they're late diagnosed or they've known all their life, they've still picked up these maladaptive coping strategies, and they've spent years trying to break that, which is relentless, and it's so damaging to self-worth. Yeah, when I'm late to something, when I am flaky, I don't reply back, forget something halfway through, all of these things, it's not because I'm bad. It's not because I don't want to do the things. I also recognize that in a lot of other people. I still have accountability to try and not just be like, it's fine, I'm already 5 minutes late, what's another hour? I still have the accountability to show up for people and to try and do my best and overcome all of these things. And that self-worth and conversation you can have with yourself about it afterwards, that reflection, that's where the mindset kind of shifts. And I recognize that I'm not bad. I'm not doing this on purpose. And that makes me feel a lot differently now. And that's taken a very long time. And my self-worth is still not, great. And I do bat compliments back very, very easily. But I am starting to accept that what I'm doing or trying to do is what's best for me and to help other people as best as I can. I don't feel it's my duty to help other people and it becomes like a job to pass on information and stuff, but I find I'm passionate about helping others and trying to see things in a different way, and also to help those future kids realize that they're not bad as well. So yeah, right now things are ever changing. People are working hard to get things going, to help us all live together in a happy, wonderful utopia, I suppose. But it's going to take a long time and understanding for everybody. So self-acceptance, absolutely. I've got to understand what makes me tick and lean into it. Like, there's no point of just again saying, oh, well, my my working memory is terrible, but this time I'm going to remember. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to remember this. So I need to put it as a reminder. I need to put it as an alarm. I need to set up these things, and some might not work, but I need to learn those coping strategies, pass those coping strategies on, and help other people with that as well. And explain that to everybody I can so that they can understand just how it feels and works inside my head.
Hi, my name is Sarah. You could say like a dinosaur in this ADHDAF community. I was diagnosed in December 2022. ADHD is severe, which means the name is misleading. It's diminishing the severeness of the disability and the consequences of having ADHD. There are so many costs of having ADHD in this society, aka neurotypical world. And I think this is the most harmful thing for us ADHDers. It's like the world is not shaped for us. It's not designed for us. We're basically set off for failure. ADHD has nearly cost my life several times, not just one time. It's hard to say. I was, at some point at my life, I really was suicidal. And to that time, I didn't know it was ADHD causing many issues and problems. Basically, ADHD has cost me a lot of my mental health. I still suffer from anxiety, reoccurring depressions. I have had an eating disorder as an adolescent. And still to this day, I'm struggling with addiction because of self-medication. When I was a teenager, I just needed so badly to fit into this world, and I tried everything to make it work. And this is the funny thing about people telling you to try harder. I tried so hard, I almost killed myself. So there was no way of trying harder. ADHD has cost me being a mother. Not having children. I'm slowly overcoming my self-worth issues, but it takes time. And I have been in this progress for about 2 years now. And I'm in Germany lucky to have medication and access to therapy. And still it is hard. Also, a big point for me is I'm not trying to fit into this society anymore. I'm not trying to hold myself accountable for neurotypical standards that I can't reach anyways. And I found this deep connection. I think humans always long for connection and belonging. And this is what the community gave me. It's really the first time in my life that people got me and understood me and didn't shame me or told me I'm lazy, but was struggling with the same issues. This amazing community saved my ass. The most part of this suffering was not because I have ADHD. This is not the point about it. It was because I have ADHD in a society that is not designed for me. It is not designed for neurodivergent ones like me. So my point to let the world know is that ableism kills. It costs us our lives, and it's enough. Enough must be enough. Society should take ADHD really seriously, and I would wish the world to create a life that doesn't set up 5% of us for failure. Our life and well-being matters. Please let us help you to educate yourself better. Nothing about us without us, and awareness is key.
So thank you very much to those three legends. Thank you, Kirsty, Micky, and Sahra. And thank you again to everyone who have helped me make some serious noise on this platform, this ADHD Awareness Month. I must admit, I was in absolute floods of tears listening to Sahra speak. Every word that she said, I could have said myself. And actually, it always is when I'm listening to anybody on this late ADHD discovery roller coaster. It's like I'm listening to myself. This massive plot twist. Everything that you knew about your life, about yourself, and everything that everyone else knows about you, nothing is what it appears to be. To finally have the answers, and with the right support, it means that it is the start of a brand new chapter, never mind new chapter, a whole new book about our lives where we can actually be the reliable narrator. I take that quote from the wonderful Nicole Nadler, who talked about being an unreliable narrator when it came to her experiences and her own life in her Edinburgh Fringe show, Why Am I Like This? But as has been mentioned many times, not just on the whole podcast, but in this mini-series, we are all so lucky to be here. We might not feel it, with the co-occurring conditions like depression and anxiety and carrying all the weight of that shame and addictions and broken relationships and all of the other ways that the wrecking ball of unidentified ADHD can swing in and bash up our lives. But statistically speaking, we are incredibly lucky to be here. And many of us, like Jodie Walsham, whose story her mother Jane allowed me to share earlier this month, were not so lucky. As Sahra said, ableism kills. Unidentified ADHD kills. Unmanaged, untreated ADHD can kill. We are in the midst of an ADHD diagnosis crisis where 196,000 vulnerable people are sat on waiting lists in the UK, and that is an underestimation as shared by the BBC. People in mental health crisis and in danger could be waiting up to 8 years in some parts to be assessed for ADHD. Now, I bring as much light as I can to what is a really heavy subject, just to lighten the load. But this is so serious, and people need to take it seriously. People need to hear us. And I would be so incredibly grateful if you could help get the word out there by sharing this episode, all of the mini episodes, any of the episodes, as far and wide as you can. Or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, if you could write a review or comment on the Q&A on Spotify or hit those stars, anything you can widens the reach. It lets others know that they are not alone in their struggles. They can receive information and validation. There is help out there. And in the absence of adequate medical support, they can receive peer support, which is invaluable in getting a diagnosis later in life, like ADHD. Now, I'm going to share a link in the show notes to the ADHDAF online peer support community. But if you cannot afford to join that, there are all sorts of support groups out there on all of the platforms, Facebook, Discord, all sorts. And as I said before, there is also a link to free and immediate support. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, is not a new medical condition. The first clinical report of ADHD was published in 1775. ADHD is associated with learning difficulties, school dropout, and underachievement at work, chronic fatigue, relationship difficulties, and intimate partner violence, increased risk of a variety of addictions, financial problems, increased traffic accidents, an increased number of suicide attempts and self-harm, and increased criminality. ADHD is not a trend. ADHD is real. So it is ADHDAF Day tomorrow, the 3rd annual ADHDAF Day, in which we paint the world leopard print to raise ADHD awareness. I would absolutely love you to join us. All you need to do is wear leopard print, as much or as little as you like, to stand in solidarity with our leopard print army. Then just post a selfie or video on your social media of you in leopard print, sharing what you would most like the world to know about ADHD. Then tag ADHDAF podcast, hashtag ADHDAF Day, and I will reshare your posts, because if we all join forces, we can get the world to listen to us. We can push for systemic change, which is so desperately needed. Lives depend on it. We are the Leopard Print Army. Hear us